Growing up as a Packer fan in the 90s, it's no surprise that, hey, I love football. Whether it was watching my favorite team on TV or suiting up on the field myself. Or playing it as a video game.
Oh, I'm at the 1 though. Oh, yes, touchback. Oh, what the fuck is that shit?
I love football. Now, not to be confused with football that the rest of the world seems to enjoy so much. But I remember playing NFL Game Day in the past and just spamming the juke until my players pulled their hamstrings, or NFL Quarterback Club on the N64 at my friend's house. Same with NFL 2K briefly until it was just, not there anymore. So, my name is Ryan Post, and I'm a Madden player. Now, I've played through the golden years in the early 2000s, and I've suffered through the countless years of incompetence, much like most of you. I have run online leagues, some of which are still around 10 plus years later. And with EA's greedy monopoly on the American football market, well, I guess actually the NFL market, any game that decides to compete against Madden is kind of propped up as the next big thing. But then it subsequently fails due to poor sales? Why? Well, it turns out it's pretty damn hard to make a good football game. So here we are again. It's 2024, just a couple years off the failures that was Doug Flutie's Maximum Football. A branch of Maximum Games called Modus Games, who actually acts more as a self-publisher for smaller devs. For games like Farm Sim, Five Nights at Freddy's, Bendy, and they bought the rights and assets from Doug Flutie's Maximum Football to make their own football game. So Maximum Football is not really an indie game, but it's not a AAA game either. It doesn't have that level of financial support like EA does, so most are kind of calling this a AA experience. It's semantics, really. Developed by Invictus Games and published by Maxim Games, Maximum Football is currently on early access for Steam for PC, with later releases coming out for Xbox and PlayStation. Now, I don't want to make it a habit to review games that are in early access, but I think it makes it fun to go back a year after it's released to see how the game is faring a year after in the public's hands. So, what is Maximum Football? It's a highly customizable football experience that doesn't feature any licensed NFL or NCAA teams, but with a diverse offering of community-created content, you can have whatever teams you want play against each other. It's a risky but necessary move in order to appeal to a larger audience. Now, how long this creative community can last without either shutting down the game from being sued or being managed to avoid copyrighted logos and teams, it remains to be seen, but the community support is actually pretty good so far. In its current state, you can really only play exhibition games against the CPU or online against others. They do have their Dynasty and franchise modes, which actually surprised me with the level of depth and customization you can do. It's almost a nostalgic feeling setting your prices and upgrading your facilities. It's a simple addition that gives just that little bit of extra flavor to play with in between games. Speaking of the Dynasty mode, it should be noted that this is the game's college football style of gameplay. It seems that the developers are trying to have a college and professional experience all encompassed under the same title. I guess you could say they're trying to stuff the maximum amount of football in this title, right? Right? Anyways, the professional franchise version is not currently released, but it'll be something we can hopefully touch on when we revisit the game next year. But now, what about the gameplay? If you're expecting going into this that Maximum Football is the Madden killer that we've been waiting for, don't hold your breath, because it's just not. This first early release, it's very clear that this is just simply the foundations for a game that has a bigger ambition. Its advertising mentions physics-based tackling should be taken with a grain of salt. The game is still very much an animations-driven experience. Now, that's not to say that the animations aren't partially driven by players' speed, size, and strength, but don't expect a full-on physics-based experience like you do with a game like Backbreaker. Now, the animations could use much more in terms of variation and variety, being less choppy, but some of them actually feel pretty good. Sliding with the quarterback, for example, it just looks great and feels crisp and clean. The feeling of stiff arming the defender and telling them to get off me, little boy, it feels great. But the movement altogether is very choppy. It's responsive, but it feels more like an arcade game than a simulation experience. There's a lot of missing features in Maximum Football. You can't flip plays pre-snap. You can't hurry up to the line. You can't snap. You can't spike the ball. You can't take a kneel. You can't quickly sub out your running back and more. It's a shell of a total football experience in terms of tactics. There's a ton of tuning that needs to be made to the base game also. Now, I've had games with way too many fumbles, way too many blocked extra points, and the worst offender is the amount of blocked punts. I swear to God, a lot of my games ended up being crazy high scoring because each team had very short field position all game because we kept blocking each other's punts. And let's not forget that the developers took the phrase running through the tunnel a little too literally. What encourages me with all of these issues is that all of them can be tuned or patched fairly easily. Seeing as this game just released on early access, I can give a little slack as the community really tests this game out. Now, the running game is pretty satisfying as you're able to squeeze through holes, put down those little DBs that try to tackle Jerome Bettis, and the diving animation actually cracks me up. The same cannot be said, however, for the passing game. Your wide receivers will drop a lot of the out routes and just like tip them up in the air for anyone to catch. And you don't know who's going to catch it. It could be your guy, it could be the defender. It's kind of crazy. This actually happens a lot. It also took me forever to get rid of my Madden habits of controlling the wide receiver to catch the ball. If you try to do that in Maximum Football, most likely your user controlled player isn't even going to try to catch the ball. He's just going to run there like he's Forrest Gump or something. Also, whoever decided to put the wide receiver as the furthest on the right rather than B, they should be fired. I'm just throwing that out there. Don't actually fire them, but you know, go give them a stern talking to. It's strange though. Even through all of the little issues that I've experienced, I still really couldn't put this game down the first couple of days I played it. There is a level of charm with what's on the field. I kind of feel like it's rooting for that little coffee shop that doesn't quite have the resources to compete against the Starbucks across the street. Yeah, it's not as glamorous or as clean or sells as much coffee, but I go there for the charm, damn it. I think the only difference is that I typically prefer the flavor for those little coffee shops, you know, especially compared to Starbucks. But in this case, they really need to fine tune their roasting process a little bit before I come for the coffee. There are two things though that I absolutely cannot stand about Maximum Football. One is that while the UI is actually very clean and it looks really, really good, it's a chore to navigate compared to the UI of even Madden, who's a little bit more all over the place. It's kind of like they thought that UI was supposed to mean unintuitive. Simple things like making depth chart changes and even looking through stats is an awful experience, more so on controller than keyboard, but still. The other thing that is just laughably bad is the announcing. The discussion seems as if they're written and spoken by AI characters rather than real people, which, you know, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if it was. I mean, dude, just listen to this. It's awful.
The quarterback throws the ball. He makes the catch. See, that's how you do it. He has a great relationship with the skills coach, and it shows. I think so too. With that effort, they punch their ticket to a new set of...
There's a long way to go for Maximum Football to get to a place where it'll be accepted as a quality football game. Right now, the AI just seems to randomly pick plays. There's no clock management skills, especially on offense leading into the end of the half. And to be honest, I feel like you could have just picked the same play on defense every single time, and there's really nothing that would be different. That can actually be said for a lot of the game as a whole. Throughout all of my games that I've played, all of them felt basically the same. Outside of the first one, where I'm pretty sure the computer beat me 100-0, once I learned how to play better offense, all of the games felt exactly the same, with no real variance, which is a little disappointing. Something that I found interesting and is definitely worth noting is that while the game is free to play and is always supposed to be free to play, there's a concern from the masses. Now, you're allowed 2 quote-unquote tickets to create your own dynasty or franchise, and that's it. And once you spend the ticket, you can't get it back, even if you delete the dynasty. Now, the way that Maximum Football is monetizing on this game is by cosmetic purchases and putting the franchise dynasty modes behind a paywall, which in my opinion is actually fine because it allows people to come into the game and then allows people to support the parts that they like. Now, you can buy the game for $40, which will give you unlimited access to the franchise and dynasty, or you can spend money on these individual tickets and do them a la carte. But the part that concerns me is that they have these random packs similar to what you'd find in Madden's Ultimate Team mode. Now, this is the kind of item I never really expected to find in a title trying to earn the support of ex-Madden players who are pissed that Madden only focuses on Ultimate Team. But I guess money talks though, right? Now, if you're watching this, you're probably thinking at this point, oh, this game's garbage. I can't support this. And I wouldn't blame you if that were true. It's in a rough spot, and it definitely doesn't live up to the realistic gameplay that it advertises. In fact, I don't recommend you play this if you're looking for a complete and polished football experience. You're definitely better off with Madden compared to Maximum Football right now. But you need to remember that these are 2 very different experiences that can't garner the same expectations. I actually feel for the EA development team a little bit because it's hard to make a video game, especially when you're trying to emulate realism. But the foundation that Maximum Football is creating here is good enough to earn my support. There's something here that just feels charming, I guess, or promising maybe. I actually have been enjoying playing it despite its flaws, and I'm excited to re-examine this game in a year from now to see how the community has molded it. So let me know your thoughts in the comments on this topic, and please like, subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. And make sure to check out our podcast because we record those every other week. So thanks for watching. Goodbye.